Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Good afternoon. How are you doing, Mr.
Very, very well. Please introduce yourself. Tell us what you do, and tell us the scope of the work.
My name is Tsepo Khove, and I'm the CEO of the Gautrain Management Agency. And apparently, I'm supposed to be presiding over the entire Gautrain. So, apparently.
Now, tell us a little bit about your work at the helm of the Gautrain. Give us the scope of its contribution to the economy of the province, but also the economy of South Africa.
So if you were to think about it in its clarity and what it means is that, you know, we have a strategy as the province called Access Gauteng 2015. And that strategy, which is the integrated transport master plan for the 25 years from this year until 2050, is very clear. We actually, for us to be able to improve the economy of the province, and obviously if the economy of the province changes, the economy of South Africa changes. Gauteng contributes 36% of the entire country's GDP. When they say it all starts here, they're not joking. It is exactly that. If this place doesn't work, the whole of South Africa doesn't work. If Gauteng's economy is non-functional, then you have a big challenge. So you have to have the clarity of mind that in whatever form of mobility that you bring in what way are you contributing to making the economy better? And in what way are you ensuring that people, places, and opportunities can be connected? But not only connected, but be connected sustainably.
So when we talk about that connection, let's talk firstly maybe about the business connection and the integration with the airport, OR Tambo, one of the busiest on the continent. Give us an idea about what that means to be able to connect, what it means for business connections, what it means for Gauteng, Johannesburg as a destination, and that interconnected web, its contribution to the economy.
So we recognize that it goes beyond the business connection, and then you have to think about it in terms of what's called #Visit Gauteng. #Visit Gauteng is, in its simplicity, is us being able to say, could we actually be able to make people not only come here for leisure, but also come here for business, or also come here to come and visit family and friends? Could this be a place where, you know, as we say, it's if you have something to do, you have someone to see or something to see, or if you just simply want to reconnect with yourself and center yourself again, this should be the place to come to. And the Gautrain will keep you moving throughout the time. And we will continue to make sure that what we do, which has always been our tagline for people on the move, we keep you moving.
So, one of the core things, I recently, as of this past weekend, I was at the Scorpion Kings live concert. And there's a new strategy at play, well, to us as the mere public, where there's an integration where Gautrain late night services, specifically for events, joined with PRASA, they work in unison to deliver large people events, to create exactly what you're saying, a reason to visit the destination, but also to make it seamless. Give us an understanding about the approach to these major events, how you work together with other partners and people to bring these events to life, whether it's rugby, it's soccer, it's concerts. We've seen it in play in a lot of times. Give us a view into this strategy.
So you have to go back into the psyche of the traveler. If you understand the psyche of the traveler, the last survey that we did in 2014 and the new one proves that Gauteng travelers do not like changing modes more than 3.5 times. And in actual fact, that 3 times is actually a stretch. But also they want to be delivered. They also want to have their last mile services clearly demarcated. Now, if you have to ask somebody to then drive their car to a Gautrain station, take the Gautrain, and then take a bus to their, what do they call it, to their final destination. So I'm a runner, so I'll explain to you in terms of what do they call it, in terms of marathons. The biggest worry a marathoner or somebody who's a runner has in the morning when they're going to the race, 1, where am I leaving my car? 2, am I going to make it on time to the start line? Now, if I can guarantee you that, would you not use the Gautrain?
Yeah.
you definitely use the Gautrain. Now, you think of the psyche of somebody going to a Scorpions live concert. Their worry is, first is, will I be able to be dropped off near the venue? So what kind of a venue am I going to? Is the precinct of the venue safe? Now, if I can say to you, you actually do not have to interact with the outside of the precinct of the venue. You actually can be able to get on the Gautrain. I drop you off at what do they call it, at Pretoria Station. You get on the Prasa line and be dropped off at the stadium. Like literally at the station that allows you to walk on the training grounds of Loftus, and then you are, what do they call it, you're actually at your concert. Now the second problem that, what do they call it, that individuals worry about when they travel back, and which became my preoccupation probably on that last week running up to the is, one is, am I going to be safe leaving? I was safe arriving. So that will be what do they call it? I'll be able to live properly. Then I live properly. Is my connection going to be seamless? When it becomes seamless, that's okay. But once I get to the other end, where either I came through my last mile services, e-hailing services, or a meter taxi, or anything of that sort, will those services be available at that hour to be able for me to complete my trip? Anytime any of this information is missing, the individual is going to take their car. Now, when they take their car, they're going to create congestion at the venue. And in addition to that, they might miss the first part of the show. And they might miss the last part of the show, because what ends up happening is that when you get to the end of the show, your return trip triggers. You then start thinking, okay, I need to get to my car, and then from my car, then I need to then make sure that I can leave before the congestion starts again. Now, you spend probably, if we do not have services like that, you spend probably about 3 hours of your day trying to get into the venue, and another 1.5 hours trying to get out of the venue. Now, that is us now being able to say, you don't need to get through that. You need to first arrive in the, what they call it, at the venue in one piece, and then arrive at home in one piece. And then you don't get hassled by, what they call it, by being stopped by the police, you know. And you can have your drinks and have your full leisure experience when you go to a place like that, without you worrying about being stopped, you know, for drinking under the influence. But it goes beyond that. If you think about it, if we could create a, what do they call it, an environment where youngsters actually take their responsibility for not driving drunk, but you give them an opportunity to be able to be safe, but also have the ability to go to such events without them worrying about being stopped. Now that's a game changer. You have taken a drunk driver off the streets. The streets are much safer at that hour. You've also made sure that a young person's future has been protected. Because once you have a DUI on your, what do they call it, in your name, your career is gone. Your employer will have to think twice about you know, your employment and your prospects for, what do they call it, for promotion changes. So it's a it's a game changer.
Give me a view into the types of numbers that were moved of people during the Scorpions King sort of event mobility run. What type of numbers were you moving in concert with a Prasa, or what had you envisaged to move?
So I'll be honest, we were actually taking this more as a pilot more than anything else. But the collaboration with the event organizers and what are they called, artists themselves, actually created an incredible experience. If you think about it, I mean, I don't know what Loftus carries as a whole, 50,000. Now, we carried more than 11,000 passengers. Now, that's a big change. If you think about it, that probably 20,000 of those people would have been walking distance, hotels are nearby and everything else. Those would have Ubered. Another 20% would be people who would have traveled from parts of Gauteng that might not have the service. And then another part of those people So if you demarcate it clearly, we easily were nearly at the point of 25% of what they call it, of the. Now, that's for a first event of that sort, and us running trains in the middle of the night and something that we haven't done, that is a super achievement.
Tell me about the late night service, because as a Gautrainer and someone who's been here since the Gautrain started, one of the biggest questions when I'm in Europe and other places is that late night service that says I could go enjoy myself in Pretoria, and then maybe I know that the train will run once at 3 a.m. to take those who have gone to Pretoria back. These are the type of late night, I would say, eventing services that are offered. A lot of people ask that and they say, why does the Gautrain not offer that? So maybe give us a view onto what, having trialed this, are you starting to see an opportunity, maybe running a 4-car once at 3 a.m. or at 4:30 for people to get back? So if we all went to Pretoria, we can still come back. What are some of the discussions that are happening around the late night service strategy ongoing?
So I've been back on the Gautrain for the last 11 years, and this has been a conversation that we've had. So the reliability of the Gautrain depends on its maintenance. And we don't do maintenance between trains because of the type of speed that we run at. We don't do maintenance between trains. So like literally when we are having services, we're having services and we are running our operations and all of that, and we have no maintenance during the time. Now, that is an important consideration. And therefore we have a 4-hour window in what they call it, in the early hours of the morning to actually maintain the system. This becomes the first consideration of what you have to think through when you have to run late night trains. Now, the issue of late night trains then becomes, in addition to that, then I have to have another shift of people that will then keep the stations open. Now, we're not saying it's not possible. We're just simply saying you could easily be able to compromise the reliability of the system if there's lack of maintenance. If it's an event-based idea, and that's what we want to try out more than anything else, for us to make sure. So we've got a number of activities that are going to be going on. So we now have termed the strategy the Gauteng takeover, and every other large event that's going to be happening, we are going to be having a similar service and having it properly run. But also the key thing was, and that we learned from the Scorpion Kings, was that activation is key. Having the artists and the and the organizers blasting this thing over the train service, but then us having the conversations with the young people about how safe it is for them and for their long-term careers for them not to drink and drive becomes a bigger conversation on this matter. So in essence, it is a lesson that has been learned that we want to replicate, but initially now we'll do it for for large events, and then we'll start looking at medium events, and then ultimately how do we actually get Gauteng not to drive in the middle of the night once they've had a few drinks.
Let's now move to the tail end of the conversation. There's a lot of ongoing conversations about Gautrain Phase 2, but also the legacy of the Gautrain of Phase 1. Yeah. Give us a view on the legacy of what has been established and where Phase 2 of the Gautrain could possibly take us. Yeah.
So the Gautrain will always be there. The systems like this are designed to be available for more than 100 years. So it will always be part of the fabric of what they call it, of what Gauteng is. We started off the Gautrain as an economic impact project, and it has delivered substantially on that matter. It has made sure that we've got what they call it, we've created jobs. But not only have we created jobs, we've created better jobs. A lot of the jobs on the system that are what they call it, professional and technical are NQF level 4 and above. Now that's a game changer. It's not just creating jobs, but creating better jobs. We've also created we've also made sure that the perception of public transport changes. When you think about that, you ask somebody, do you use public transport? They'll tell you no. But you ask them, do you use the Gautrain? Says yes, I use the Gautrain. Says, but Gautrain is public transport. But then it means people are starting to see that public transport can be better. It doesn't have to be cheap and nasty. So therefore, we've also, made sure that we change the perception of, impact on, what do they call it? Impact on direct investment, in order they call it, so we've become an investable destination. And an investable destination is one where a businessman doesn't have to worry about how they're going to travel from the airport to their hotel and then to various meetings that they have. And that becomes an important issue. We've also activated the investment in property. If you look at what Rosebank and Sandton were before the station was built, the stations were built there, and how properties are sold now, they're sold with their proximity to Gautrain. Now, that is an important conversation of what you call not only the legacy, but the correct direct economic impact of what they call of Gautrain 1. Gautrain 2 is not going to be different. It's not going to be different in the idea of it being an economic impact project, but we're going to be intentional. On the new line, we've got stations that we term transformational stations. They will change the complexion and what do they call it, of the area and the manner in which property gets developed in those areas. We've got stations that are going to be a renewal. And when you think of a renewal, places like Roodepoort are a dead town today. With a new Gautrain station there, you can spare on property development. We then also have what we call Create. And Create is about us creating new stations like the Lansaria Smart City Station, or the Cradle Station as we refer to it now. And in essence, what do they call it? That becomes an important part of the conversation. And this is about economic impact more than it being about anything else. And us making sure that we can transform, renew, and create.
And then lastly, give us a view on how impactful social media, the activations that happen there, and the online reputation of the Gautrain, how these have merged together in the eventing world or in the large eventing world, and how this all culminates in increasing the reputation of the Gautrain just to everybody around South Africa, because that's how impactful it is.
To us, we have to be relevant, and we have to be able to, if one weekend we are, babes wama, that's what we are. And the second weekend we are now the running babes, then that's a different thing. But if we can be, the king of Amapiano to anybody, that is a game changer. And when you think about it, it's about us making sure that we can access various markets, but access it according to the manner in which they want to be accessed today. The manner in which you advertise to people who go to the rugby is completely different from you talking to runners that are going to the Absa Radio City. And it's a completely different way in which you speak to the young crowd that goes to even though the whole lot more old people at the Amapiano, but Asikola. So, but we appreciate every person who actually took time to be on the system. But we are making sure that we can connect with different parts and connect with different parts of the nation as a whole. And that social media plays an extremely important part so that we can access the various people on the platforms that they exist on.
And lastly, what do you want your legacy to be when you ultimately move on from this position and you go higher? What do you want to have left behind?
That's a very difficult question. So for me is, if in the future we can then be able to look back and be able to see a rail system that not only changed the lives of all the people of what they call it of Gauteng, but ultimately a rail system that created access and that made sure that we're connecting people, places, and opportunities sustainably. That to me will be an outcome that will be worth taking to the grave.
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for your expertise and for sharing with us. Thank you, CEO.
Thank you for having me.